And boom goes the dynamite.
And let's get rumbling because that's right, boom goes the dynamite. This is Daily Dive, the only live lacrosse talk show that airs Monday through Friday. I am Michael Karvelis, and on the show today, I'll be talking about the latest from TheLaxMag. We haven't mentioned them in a while. There's a very intriguing article by Paul Tutka regarding Paul Rabil's beef with box lacrosse in general. I'll talk about that briefly. Also, we're going to talk to Cody Janzen of the Saskatchewan Rush. We talked to Cooper Perkins yesterday. It's only fitting with a big Seals and Rush game coming up this weekend. We'll ask Cody what happened against Panther City, and also can the Rush get the Seals again? And of course, my top 5 teams in the NLL. Okay, we are presented by Daily Dive Store. Go to Daily Dive Lax on Twitter, Instagram, all the social medias. And when you see our social media bios, you're going to click the link tree and click on our store. And when you do so, get you an awesome shirt, hoodie. We even have a beanie. You guys are going to love it. Support the show while we help grow the game. And our top story is presented by the Daily Dive Store. So let's get into it. Is it just business for Paul Rabil? Now, I want to first mention this, that this conversation is a continuation of the one where Paul Rabil calls Trevor Baptiste the first or only black professional lacrosse MVP. Now, to his credit, and it's not great credit, but there is a tweet where Paul Rabil says, "You're right, I apologize." He said to Travis Cornwall, I guess when you get called out by a player of color about another player of color, you're going to have to apologize, right? He says, Dane Smith is an incredible player and a 2-time MVP in the NLL. The interview was on the Premier Lacrosse League, and I was referring to PLL and MLL historically, but should have taken the time to recognize Dane's achievement in the NLL. That's the problem, you scumbag. And I know this was like a day after I ranted on Paul Rabil, and rightfully so. But I want to first address that apology. The fact that he's saying I should have taken the time, no one believes that you were just promoting the PLL or referring to the MLL historically. That's a lie. That is an absolute and utter lie. You can try to save your face all you want to, and it didn't seem like a PR stunt. It seemed like he actually tweeted that out, but it also really seemed like he walked it back. You totally said professional lacrosse. So part of this article by Paul Tutka of TheLaxMag, it's a very intriguing and well-written article. He's basically saying it's marketing 101. He lays out the history of the beef with the NLL and Paul Rabil versus like PLL, whatever you want to get at. And he says these things and lays it out for us. And in the end, the closing argument is this. So should the box lacrosse bubble have beef with Paul Rabil? We believe our game is better. It's been around longer, and it most certainly is professional lacrosse. So sure, get fired up. But remember, it's not personal. It's just business. That is simply not true. I believe Paul Tutka made a great point when he said that, when people say football, they refer to the NFL. When they say hockey, they refer to the NHL. That's because those leagues do not have some gigantic other thing competing with them. He brought up the UFC thing with Dana White. Dana White is an absolute scumbag. To use his marketing strategy to justify what Paul Rabil is doing is not right. And I understand that in people's brains it works like that. But to completely dismiss what Dane Smith does and then the NLL in general, in which this moron played for, you cannot just dismiss that as marketing or not professional lacrosse. By him saying professional lacrosse, he recognizes the moment in time that we are in as lacrosse fans. People are gravitating towards the game. And the simple fact that it's just marketing strategy is not true. I appreciate the viewpoint of Paul Tutka, but that we cannot brush that aside as marketing 101. That cannot be a thing. I understand the leagues may not be able to coexist, but for Paul Rabil, knowing that his lacrosse league has the platform of the linear coverage and not just the paid for ESPN Plus coverage, no offense, but that he knows this fact, and yet he still calls it professional lacrosse. He knows new fans will not know. And then to say, oh, well, I should have taken the time. You were never going to take the time, Paul Rabil, to recognize that about Dane Smith because you don't care. And this notion that calling it professional lacrosse is just marketing is simply not true. We cannot brush that aside as that it was borderline racist. Not saying he is, but it was a racial remark, and he also is completely pissing all over the league that brought him up. And I'm not appreciative of it. This article, again, was well written, but it does not matter because he knows the moment in time that we're in. And you have to recognize that context as the argument for this. Speaking of fans gravitating towards the NLL, John Cena has followed the New York Riptide on Twitter. I kind of like said, oh, that's pretty cool. He follows like 558,000 people on Twitter, to be fair. And I'm not sure how long the Riptide are following him, but I do think it's more people gravitating towards lacrosse. And I'm so happy that John Cena followed the Riptide and not the PLL. He may follow the PLL for crying in the sink. I don't know. There's odds are he might. I thought it was pretty cool that John Cena did that. Very big marketing guy. Also, Albany Fireworks are, remember the thing that me and Renee talked about, the struggle bus where Renee pulls the keys up and says, hey, here you go. It's up to Albany now. I don't know if Georgia winning the last two games against the Firewolves was an accomplishment like we think it is. Because I've told you guys the last 5 weeks now, Albany has nothing going for them. Doug Jameson had 53 saves or whatever in that game, in the game 2, and it did not matter. You're telling me that the goalie for the Swarm is all of a sudden all world? No. The Firewolves just suck. And I know they acquired Jake Fox, who's great. He had a great goal this past weekend, which is up for play of the week. Man. But when I come back, though, we got to talk to Cody Janzen. I'm done ranting. I had to get this great article by Paul Tucker. I'm not going to lie. It was a great article. Made good points, but it also ignores context. When we come back, we're talking to Cody Janzen. I got to ask him what happened against Panther City. And don't say I didn't see it coming. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Daily Dive here, presented by Fanatics. Go to Daily Dive Lax and Don't tell me. Well, that was interesting. I did it, but hey, we're back. We're back. That you saw it too, right?
Yeah, I just lost you for a second.
Oh, good. All right, well, good. It's happening again. Anyways, go to there and click the Fanatics link and shop the NLL. It's Cody Janzen, everybody. Welcome back, Cody.
Happy to be here.
I bet
mean,
you
wish it was
are.
on a little bit of a happier note, and you would have asked me to come on after a Rush win. But I know after Rush losses, I'm the first person you're texting on a Monday morning.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. Cody, I predicted, and I actually low key hoped for a Rush loss to Panther City, and it happened. So first of all, tell me why it was not just a close game, but 16-10. Can you explain that for the people?
Panther City scored more goals.
Wow.
It fell apart. It was a 9-7 game. Saskatchewan had opportunities. It was 8-7 at one point. Power play kind of went cold. Saskatchewan didn't capitalize on their chances, and Panther City played a full 60 minutes. It's hard to beat teams. And this is going to sound stupid or just kind of a dumb moment, but it's hard to beat teams in the NLL when they play a full 60 minutes. We're the best teams, even teams like Buffalo in the final last year against Colorado. They didn't play a full 60 minutes, and the Mammoth did. Well, that's why Colorado won, because they strung it together for a pair of games, right? Like, it is tough to beat the best teams, the worst teams. Look at Vancouver as well, right? They went and played a perfect game plan against Saskatchewan. The Rush just didn't execute. They had chances. I don't think I've seen them miss the net as much as they have against Panther City all season long. So it was little things that, it's a lot of straws that break the camel's back. And that's what it felt like. Saskatchewan had their opportunities. They had their chances. And at the end of the day, they just didn't capitalize on them where Panther City did.
Well, at least that leads to this question then, and you segued it nice. They didn't capitalize on their chances. It's almost like they needed more help, which is what I've said for a few weeks now. Are we trading Mike Messenger here? What's going on?
No, you're not trading Messenger. I don't know who you guys are talking to. I've heard that from multiple people now. So I don't see that happen. Saskatchewan's been better on faceoffs this year than they have in a long time. Like, even, he's putting up better faceoff numbers than Jeremy Thompson was in a lot of years, right? Like, he's around 60%. The thing is, you can have the debate on if faceoffs matter or not, but it's what you're doing after the fact. If you win a faceoff and then you go and turn it over, well, now that face-off win doesn't really matter. Or if the 40% you're getting beat on, if they're scoring off of, one or two of those a game, then it doesn't matter. Face-offs mean nothing. So for a guy like Messenger, who's such a Swiss Army knife where he can come out the O gate when they've got injuries like he did against Panther City, he can play out the D gate, he crushes guys out the backhand, he's physically intimidating. There's just no replacement, right? If you trade someone, it has to be to make your team better. So there has to be some sort of replacement either in line or, coming up. You can't, I don't know, you could probably go the next 5 drafts and you're not going to find another Mike Messenger. Like, I'm not meaning like this is like a first, it's a top 3 pick in the NLL, but they're such a rare breed. So absolutely not. I think Messenger is probably, bottom of the list to get traded.
Mark Matthews was pretty intriguing. I mean, I'm sitting there rolling all these names, and I guess that's the one I was thinking of originally. To be fair, Mike Messenger is like the enforcer of the team. I don't think you really trade those guys away. But Mark Matthews, does he do enough to be on the block here?
We're just going to go all the way down the list of trade dates today. See, again, Mark's having an unreal year. He's putting up, I think he's second in assists per game or something. I think only Dane Smith has more than him. So, Mark's having an unreal year. His offense is still there, despite what people want to say about him going downhill. So, I don't see any reason that you should be fire sailing guys right now. I think it just comes down to where's the next step for this team, right? Like, there's 2 games until the trade deadline. If you go 2-0, if you beat San Diego and Calgary, you're probably adding at the deadline. You're probably saying, who can we put around Mark Matthews, Robert Church, those guys, to make this team better? But if you go and lose to San Diego and Calgary, then I don't think. I mean, it's tough to trade away a guy like Matthews, right? Like that's it. What would even a return look like? So I'm not. I don't know. I don't want to throw names around or anything. I think you listen to everyone. I think you take calls on everyone, right? You wouldn't be doing your job as a manager or whatnot if you're not actually taking calls on everyone. I just don't know what a return would look like at this point and what would make sense for Saskatchewan because, you're not just losing a veteran player, you're losing one of the heartbeats of Saskatchewan. And so you would have to, if you make a major move, it doesn't just have to be Matthews, could be anyone. You have to still show the fan base that you're invested for the long haul and that you're making a decision that's best for the future of this team. I think as long as that happens, then fans would be fine with any trade that happens. And I think everyone's got full trust in Derek Keenan.
I like it. I also have full trust in Jimmy Quinlan too, although they don't get up for games that aren't named San Diego and Colorado. But that's okay. That's okay for now. Before we can move on to other stuff in the NLL, let's get to Seals and Rush this weekend. Cooper Perkins, yesterday on the show, great guest as always. I know you guys have talked before. Cooper said it's always tough playing the Rush. And we both believe that Alex Bouquet could very much stand on his head once again just because it's the Seals. Are we going to see another Alex Bouquet game? And is that what it has to take in order to beat a Seals team that Cooper mentioned is gaining more consistency because now they're playing a heavy loaded back end schedule?
Here's the thing with Bouquet, and a lot of people want to be harsh on him. I think he's had 6 really good games. And maybe that 7th is a questionable game, and I consider that the OT loss in San Diego, where it's tough to put him at fault because the chances that San Diego were scoring on were just, they're A+ chances, right? Anyone should be scoring on those. You can't fault the goaltender. But there also comes a point in time where you do need your goalie to steal you a game. You need someone to go off for 12 points. You just need that big performance, and that's what this weekend feels like. There's some extra pressure there, no doubt. Because if you don't win this game, there's a good chance that some major shakeup is going to happen. So I think that there is a very good, it's a good opportunity. I don't know. I think if you're a player, I think back to, my pathetic playing career was just, if there's a big opportunity, you want to be in those situations. The gamers want to be in those situations. The best want to be there. So that added pressure right now is, essentially the team being like, show me what you got, guys. Or are we playoff contenders, or should we start to retool this team? And that's what the next 2 weeks are going to say. And a lot of it does come down to Alex Bouquet. You got to be out dueling a Frank Scigliano or a Chris Riglieri, who Saskatchewan's had a lot of success with. But you probably don't want to be in a 17-14 game with San Diego this weekend. You probably want to lock it down a little bit more.
Because you'll be scoring the 14, they'll be getting the 17. So as we talk about like what the Rush could add, Vancouver just added Dean Farrell. And let's pretend that the new GM of the Warriors, I keep forgetting his name, the former player. Let's pretend that what was his name again?
Well, Troy Cordingley's the intern GM.
Yeah. So let's pretend that because he got rid of Mitch Jones pretty quickly. And let's just say pipe dream here, Saskatchewan does lose this weekend, or even if they win. What we got to give up to get Keegan Ball over there?
What do we got to give up? I ain't making any phone calls. You would love to see a Keegan Ball, but from everything I've heard is that's going to cost you 2 firsts and 2 really good prospects.
Works for me.
I think the asking price for Keegan Ball is certainly high, as it should be. He's a damn good player. You need that long-term security, though, because you're not paying that price for a 1-year rental. You're paying what I think, it's the Philly price for Mitch Jones. Might be more acceptable, might be easier to swallow, but it does come down to supply and demand, too, because I know that there were other teams in on Keegan Ball who have now added other righty forwards. So are they still interested? And if they're not, then the asking price goes down.
Yep.
And if Keegan Ball isn't too keen on re-signing or is considering taking calls during his UFA this summer, maybe that does help your cause, right? So there's so many behind the scenes things that could go into it. But from everything I'm hearing, it's you better be ready to give up a lot. And I don't see I don't see Derek Keenan moving any of the players out the back gate. I think that this is a team that knows defense comes first, that's building like it's 2011 again, 2012. So they're probably not willing to give up too many prospects, if any prospects, unless it really makes sense and this team is going to be a championship contender and play to that full potential.
Quickly, do you think Mitch Jones playing as insane as he has in the first 3 or 4 games with Philadelphia, you think that puts the asking price up for Keegan Ball, considering he was like not doing a dang thing in Vancouver for this year?
That's a fair point, honestly. I didn't really think about that and just how much Mitch Jones has flourished in an offense that, is really utilizing his skill set versus it's not like there was too many cooks in the kitchen in Vancouver. Obviously, Shuss getting hurt doesn't help. But, guys like Sean Evans need the ball in their stick. Kyle Killen, he's a great shooter, so he's going to take those shots. Keegan Ball is one of the best at one-on-one. So maybe Mitch Jones wasn't getting the ball as much as before, where now he's the 1A lefty on Philly, and he's a guy who a lot of that offense is rolling through. So he's going to put up those huge point games because he can be that skilled player and has the pieces around him. So, yeah, that probably does help Keegan Ball's case. It really just comes down to the market price, and I wish I could give you a better answer on that. Maybe in a week or two we'll have a little bit of better knowledge of which teams are in, which teams are out. But for Saskatchewan's case, and fully in my opinion, right, this isn't from the team or anyone, we'll see what the next 2 weeks bring. Because the trade deadline's on a Monday. You've got 2 games until then. You don't need to panic. You don't need to make a move right now. But you do have to decide which direction this team's going in. And I know, perfect world, you're competing for a championship.
I personally think Rush win this weekend. Full disclosure, I would, and maybe,
I mean, 2 overtime games too, and I hate to go back on it. I hate the what ifs, but again, if you win in San Diego and you win in Colorado in those overtime games, this team's 7-3. Like, that's just how close the NLL is. That's why it's the most exciting league to watch. It's because the parity is unmatched every single game, especially out west. I can't speak for you out east,
right?
But it's the West is awesome. And for Saskatchewan's case, they're 2 shots away from being 7-3. Instead, they're 5-5, and yeah, it's going to be tough to get that home playoff spot now. But you got a chance. You got a chance to win a season series with San Diego. You got a chance to win a season series with Calgary, and you got a chance to win a season series with Colorado. Still a lot of volume.
I'm feeling good. One last thing I want to ask you on today's show: Cooper Perkins called the Stadium Showdown special. One of my pipe dreams for the next Stadium Showdown would be either like the Maryland, Virginia area, although I don't see enough fans there. I really like Tampa, Florida, because they already have the Lightning who do so well. What about Saskatchewan? I don't know how well that would sell, but tell me, could Saskatchewan do it, and should they do it for the next Stadium Showdown?
What? I don't think they should take it to a non-NLL market. I think that'd be a very tough sell, unless the league would have something in mind already. Maybe that's expansion-based, or maybe that's just, a pure marketing standpoint where they know they can put 10,000, asses in seats. From a Saskatchewan perspective, I think it definitely would work well. It just comes down to a venue. It's funny enough, we were talking about it over the weekend. About where could they, and I think there's multiple places in Saskatchewan that could do it. It would have to be later on in April, obviously, weather permitting, right? So I think that is a possibility. I don't know if you can't say it's like, oh, it's likely. I don't think anything's likely until pen hits paper. I'd love to see it in Saskatchewan. It would be fun. It would be a blast. Like, everyone sees how good the Rough Riders do in the CFL. So if you can kind of generate some of that buzz, and if you can make it work, I don't see why Saskatchewan wouldn't be open to it. I think some might want to call it gimmicks, but I think it's little things like that do grow the game, because it's non-traditional, because it's something different, because it's not a classic Saturday night game. Now all of a sudden it's a Saturday afternoon. You're going outdoors. you're playing at Husky Griffith Stadium, whatever, you're playing at Mosaic Stadium. There's a lot of potential, right? I think that's interesting.
I kind of like the idea of snowing during the game and just like scoop up the snow at halftime and then let them play again in the second half.
No, they play field lacrosse in the snow, and everyone knows my thoughts on field lacrosse to begin with. But when it's in bad weather, it's a terrible product.
That's
I
fair.
mean, college lacrosse, you've already got the kids. Now you're playing in snow. They're running around in sweatpants. Like it's not enjoyable to watch. My opinion. Again, I'm not a fan. I'm not wearing any college hoodies or anything. I don't have an alma mater that's I'm cheering for, but I think that ruins it. What a good weekend of NLL broadcasting, though. You brought up Cooper, the Stadium Series. Monday Night Lacrosse.
Monday Night was great.
Teddy and Pat did the watch-along with some friends. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if you got to see any of that Stadium Series. I mean, Cooper and Nick crushed it. Like, there's no surprise there. They're two of the best or most entertaining broadcasters in the game. I thought it was great. I thought that's another good step forward for the NLL this weekend.
I called the best weekend ever. That's why I felt like it was going in, and I felt like it delivered. So there you go.
It was good. It was good.
Cody Janzen, everybody. Great job, Cody. Bringing the knowledge and the insight and the teases. I love it.
Always a pleasure, Mike.
Always. Go to Daily Dive Lax and check out Fanatics via the link tree in our bios. When I come back, who are the top 5 NLL teams? I'll let you know. Welcome back to Daily Dive here. I'm Karvelis. It has been a great show so far. We talked about, is it just business for Paul Rabil? No, it's not. We also talked about John Cena and how Albany stinks. Also, Cody Janzen talked all things NLL, including the Saskatchewan Rush, and he even gave us a little bit of a tease that the next 2 weeks could be huge for their future. Now it's time for our last brew, presented by B-Rez Coffee Company. Search B-R-E-Z Coffee Company. Enter the code DailyDive at checkout. Top 5 NLL teams. Here they are. Number 1. I'm going to go with, let's go number 5 first. Number 5. I'm still going with the Rochester Nighthawks. I think Rochester has looked very good. Even when they lost to the Rock, they still were very good in that game. Rochester is no joke. Rylan Hartley might be one of the best goalies, if not, he's like 1A or 1B in terms of goalies in the NLL. Number 4, I'm going to go with another great defensive team, the Calgary Roughnecks. I really enjoy what they do defensively. That stadium is disgusting to look at, and I'm sure they love playing there against teams that are coming in there. Number 3, the San Diego Seals. Depending on which version you get, they could be number 1. Last week, they looked pretty good. As Cooper Perkins said yesterday, they played a full 60 minutes for the first time this season. Number 2, a team that lost on Monday night to the Wings, but I feel like the Toronto Rock played very well. They peppered the net with way more shots on goal than the Wings did. I just feel like they hit too many crossbars and the ball just didn't go through, but I feel like they controlled much of that game, and the Wings just were able to capitalize on the chances that they had, and let's just say they were not many of them. But I believe if you play that game 9 more times, I think the Rush win it all 9 times. The Rock win it all 9 times. Number 1 for me, the Buffalo Bennetts. Dane Smith who needs Josh Byrne? I know Dane Smith would like Josh Byrne, but who needs the guy? When Dane Smith continues to let this team play well, Delgan Anacoke with another chance at a play of the week at NLL on Twitter. And of course, Matt Vince at 40 years old holds the Thunderbirds to just 8 or 9 goals? Absolute insanity. There's your top 5. Bandits at 1, Rock, Seals at 3, Roughnecks at 4, and the Nighthawks at 5. I'm an Eastern Conference guy. That's 3 out of 5 teams from the East. I apologize to the Western fans. Not really. This has been Dilly Dive Lax. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. Sorry for the connection issues. That was weird earlier. But we got through it, and Cody was great as always. So for great guests like Cody Janzen, for our wonderful host, Renee Washington, I am Michael Karvelis saying thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow right here, noon Eastern, live on Daily Dive Lax. See you around.